I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Henry Confidential. It's time for Real Debates. I changed the name a little bit. Movie Debates, and I fact-checked it. There is still no thing called Real Debates, so I was able to work it out. But a Movie Debates, even though it's straight to the point, it does, doesn't have that ring to it. Real Debates, boom. This is going to be a fun one. We have Jay Burns versus Papa West. Both of them have a lot of stuff going on in their personal lives, so we'll see if that affects the match or if it's just going to be a fun shit show like we kind of planned when I scheduled this. Behind the scenes, we have Eric Moreno and Jordan Pierce Owens. They're going to be judging alongside myself, and this is going to be the first match where we're testing out / hopefully just going to work where we're going to collectively judge at the very end. So we're going to go question 1. It's over. Follow up immediately. Question 2, question 3, question 4. And then at the end, we'll do our judging. And then each judge will kind of explain their thoughts and opinions on each question one at a time. And then they'll reveal their scores. For example, if I'm judging right now, then I'll be like, all right, so round 1, I had Jay. Round 2, Papa. Round 3, Jay. Round 2, Papa for the 2-2 tie. There's a word for it. I don't have it right now. And then the other 2 judges will reveal those. We'll tally up the scores. And if it's in favor 3-1 for a player, we'll have a winner. And if it's 2-2, then we'll go to the speed round. And then we have a prompt there. So with that said, our very first player, we'll bring in Papa West. Papa, how you feeling, bud?
I'm feeling wore out. Long day today. But you got to end it on a positive note. So I'm going to smile in front of Chuck, who is smiling even bigger.
Absolutely. And when was the last time you debated? Has it been a while?
It has been a very hot minute. The last time official debate was the TMG Entertainment Sports Movie Exhibition. Canonically, because I believe that one came out first, I did have that fun retirement match against Aaron Knoll. Henry, I swear to God, if you send me a contract, I will burn your house to the ground.
I'll try not to. All right. Bringing in your opponent, Jay Burns. Jay, without going in specific, you got a lot going on. Hopefully you're going to have a lot of fun, or at least you're going to, minimize, however you're feeling right now. Overall, what are your thoughts on this match?
Yes, as an unselected character in any fighting game ever, as you can clearly see, I am ready to do this.
Player 1. Oh, that's me. All right. And once again, just a reminder, shout out to my fellow judges, as well as Jake Tato behind the scenes, because he just wanted to watch. If you pay for that Patreon, you can watch behind the scenes live and in person. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So with that said, we have Jay versus Papa. We'll go ahead and flip our coin now, which I don't have the coin on me. All right. Jay, heads or tails?
In the middle. Tails.
All right. It is tails. Do you want to close on questions 1 and 3 or 2 and 4?
2 and 4.
Okay. So you will open for 1 and 3. So, all right, here we go. Make sure facts, JPO. All right, here we go. Our very first question in the category of sports. With the prompt, it's a pitch. Pitch a based on true events from a sports team from the major 4 American sports: NFL, NBA, MLB, and NHL. So, Jay, we'll be starting with you, and I will kind of jump in a little bit just because I know you guys both mentally have a lot going on, just the timers and all that stuff. So with that said, when I go off and the timer starts, you will start. So don't mind the colors, the color scheme. I tried to update it, and it just I didn't get that far yet. So don't let that trip you up a little bit. We'll go to that one first. All right, I'm leaving.
So we start?
I'm very confused.
Well, whenever you start, the time will start. You'll see.
How long do we have?
1 minute and then 2 minutes. So because it's a pitch round, you're going to have a 1 minute opening and then a 2 minute expansion of your pitch, and then the 4 minutes going back and forth.
Okay.
1 minute.
I'm waiting for a timer.
It's when you've been speaking.
Okay. So mine, there it is. Okay. So mine, super simple. It's going to be the 2010-2011 Seattle Seahawks season. Sorry, there's a lot going on in the background. What it comes down to is you necessarily don't need a team to overcome any adversities or odds, but want them to win out over the returning champions. And that's what this season of Seattle did with a trade mid-season with Matt Hasselbeck there. Honestly, what you really want to see in a movie is not necessarily even underdogs. You just want the players to sit there and show, or the actors in the movie to show that they want this. And I don't think that there was any team out there that wanted this harder than the 2010-2011 Seattle Seahawks. I will end there.
Time. All right. 1 minute when Papa begins.
I will end with no more time left on the clock. Great comment, Jay. But if we know anything about the NFL, there's a couple things that we know. Number one, the Dallas Cowboys suck. We know that. It's great. Number two, love him or hate him, Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time. I hate the guy. I'm dying inside just by saying that. But something we found out in the past couple of months with the roast of Tom Brady is he likes making fun of himself, and he can handle being made fun of himself. I think a movie we need to see. It's a great underdog story. It is the New York Giants 2007-2008 NFL season, the year that they beat the undefeated Patriots in the Super Bowl. Main reason we need to see this is because, hey, it's a great way to make fun of Tom Brady. You love him. Hey, we're playing on this. You hate him? Yeah, I'm going to make fun of Tom Brady. I love that. But it's also a really good story of underdogs overachieving the greatest obstacle of all time.
And time. All right, just a reminder, this one's going to be 2 minutes to kind of expand, plot details, characters, actors, et cetera, however you want to approach it. So 2 minutes. When there's 1 minute remaining, the 1 minute timer will pop up.
So what it really comes down to is, for almost the entirety of the first season, you have Matt Hasselbeck. You have a struggling quarterback who has gone to the Super Bowl before and is really just not finding his own rhythm here. But you have a rising star in number 29. You have a rising star in Earl Thomas, a man who at the first half of the season is being selected for key rookie of the year on defense. And then when the trade happens with New York and we get Marshawn Lynch comes in, and honestly, what I would do with my film and with my pitch is end it on the Beastquake. And the only reason that I would end it on the Beastquake is because it's the ultimate high. It is that, hey, we are that underdog. We are going in against the undefeated, not the undefeated, but we are going in against the returning Super Bowl champions in the New Orleans Saints. The Beastquake happens, by far probably one of the most notable things that ever has happened in a Seattle Super Bowl, or in a Seattle Super Bowl contending season, even though honestly it was just the playoffs, but it's still technically contending. That's where I would end it, and then fade out and do the whole, unfortunately they didn't go there, but, and then have all of the little sub headlines, because you don't necessarily need them to end on a losing streak or end on a loss. But knowing what you know about this season, that's exactly what ends up happening. Versus, hey, it's Eli Manning, and Eli Manning's dumb fucking football face beat Tom Brady. You can't even laugh. You laughed at it. Papa.
And time. All right. 2 minutes, Papa, when you begin.
To be fair, I smiled thinking of Eli Manning's face, because that face sells. Let's be honest here. I don't know if my time's going, but I am actually starting. See, here's the thing about our movies, is they're pretty much the exact same thing. You have the Seattle Seahawks kind of down on their luck. You start off with the New York Giants living up to the hype of the season of Eli Manning, brother to Peyton Manning. It starts off with right beginning of the season. Is he going to live up to the hype that his brother has so far? His brother has won all these MVPs. I believe has won a Super Bowl championship at this time. Can Eli do it? We start off with the season. This was the first team in NFL history to win the Super Bowl, losing their first 2 games. At 0-2, no other team has won the Super Bowl at this time. Only a handful have made it to the playoffs. So you can have this team down on their luck. They've lost these first 2 games. All these people talking about Eli Manning's going to be a bust. You have all the drama of when he was drafted. He really hasn't done much in the couple years he's been in the league. He's a bust. He's fighting that. You have the backdrop of the New England Patriots. They're the dynasty this year. You're going through the season of this team that is just barely making it by. They only made it as a 5 seed in the playoffs. So they were only a wild card. Shouldn't have made it in the first place. They had one of the toughest roads to the Super Bowl to get there. They had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then they moved on to the Dallas Cowboys, the number 1 seed. Then they played Brett Favre, one of the greatest quarterbacks who has a really questionable history outside of the NFL. The really fun snow game. You have this team that's not supposed to be here and just showing up and is overcoming all these odds. And then you have the Super Bowl. You talk about ending on a play. You don't have to end on my play. You can end with them holding up the Super Bowl. But also the helmet catch, that cinematically, I would much rather see that than the Beastquake run.
And time. All right. Now, once again, a reminder, since you guys got extra time on your expansion for the pitch, you're only going to have 4 minutes for this open debate. So time begins when the first person begins.
Go ahead. You're good, bud.
I get to go ahead? Okay. Again, I do think we have very similar stories happening of teams very down on their lucks. The biggest difference is my team does the thing that every team tries to do and only one team can do, and that's win it all. Your team took a couple years. I'd much rather see the Russell Wilson story. Plus, with mine, you have people who might want it, people who hate Tom Brady. Those weird New York Giants fans. With mine, you have Seattle Seahawks fans, and really, do the Seattle Seahawks want to watch a movie about them losing in the playoffs?
Absolutely. They've done it since the 70s. I believe that if it was the first in a franchise film, which it definitely could be if we're going to make a sports movie, and let's not act like sports movies can't do that. Let's not act like sports movies where the fucking antagonist or the protagonist loses in the first one isn't a thing that doesn't happen quite regularly. Let's be real here on that, because if you want to say that, right, then don't talk about Rocky, my boy. I'm not saying that you will, but like Rocky doesn't win in the first one, but you know what? They do end up on a highlight and he still ends up losing. We'll end up on a highlight and we still end up losing. So yeah.
Okay, you're hoping that this becomes a franchise. There's not a lot of football franchises out there. You talk about the big sports movie franchise, which is Rocky. Great, there's a great story on there. I don't really see that happening with this. We're just talking about one movie,
you've never
one great
seen it happen doesn't mean that it couldn't happen.
No, that's exactly what it means. We've seen time and time
whatsoever. You got to be able to take that shot.
We've seen time and time again where movie companies do not take chances. Go with what we have seen time and time again. That's why franchises are being continuously built upon, and we're not seeing a lot of new things coming out.
So really what it comes down to is the simple fact that my opponent doesn't think that these could be made into a franchise. It very clearly could be made into a franchise, especially with the popularity of the Seattle Seahawks after 2010. But we're also forgetting what it is that is building up to it. We're talking about an underdog team here in by far what has become the hardest, oh my goodness, division to play in. Sorry, got a whole lot of
hardest division to play in. It depends on the time frame. At that point, I wouldn't say that the NFC West
to
The
Okay.
team that won the division the year you're talking about did not have a winning record. I wouldn't say that that is the toughest division. I would call that a joke of a division. In a couple
In all
years,
fairness, like
yes.
also Seattle beat the returning Super Bowl champs and did the one thing that everybody wanted to see happen. It's the one thing that people talk about. I've mentioned multiple players from my team who could have shining times on my squad. The only thing that you've mentioned is Eli Manning rising above and becoming the one player. But I don't see Eli Manning putting up 1,500 fucking yards. I don't see Eli Manning rushing, not throwing. I also don't see Eli Manning throwing 35 fucking touchdowns. So, like, let's be real here. If, like, that's what you want to go with, let's go with that. But if we're going to talk about stats, let's talk about stats.
I don't see why we need to talk about stats. This is making one singular movie. We've seen franchises fail, hoping a
Stats are
franchise
important
happens.
when you're talking about sports films.
And time. All right, we're going to start with Jay. 1 minute closing when you begin speaking.
What it comes down to, everybody loves a film where, yeah, your team wins or the person that you're rooting for wins. What I think it shows is grit and determination when that does not happen. And you know what? Seattle went in 2010 after that trade, got Marshawn Lynch, got the Beastquake going on, entered into the playoffs in a 7-9 record. Yeah, they beat the returning Super Bowl champs. They won the Super Bowl in their eyes. That's a great enough record. It's a great enough response for anybody else when it comes right down to it. But you also have Matt Hasselbeck. You also have Earl Thomas III. You've got everybody else that you need on your squad out there that can highlight that. It's not necessarily just about a singular player, but when you can highlight all three of them in a film or highlight multiple players in a film to get that, that's what you look for in a sports film, and that's why the Seattle Seahawks are the best.
All right, 1 minute closing for Papa when you.
If we learned anything from Tom Cruise's Mummy film, it's like, hey, let's get one solid film first, and then let's worry about franchises. I think if we build this great story, and oh, by the way, they lost the very next game, it's going to make people really upset. You talked about this team winning. This team could not win more games than they lost. That's not winning. I can name players on my team: Eli Manning, Plaxico Burress, David Tyree, Osi Umenyiora. If you want a story, one story, people love underdog stories. Rudy, Remember the Titans. Oh, wait, those are also football movies. The Longest Yard, football movies. What do we like in our football movies? That is a good underdog story. You have a team that lost to the Patriots at the very end of the season, a team that really shouldn't be in the Super Bowl, made it to the Super Bowl, took on an undefeated team and won. I want to see that story. And again, the David Tyree helmet catch, I think would be a phenomenal play to watch again
And
in a movie.
all
Please
right.
name 2 football movies where they both lost. Sorry, strike from the record. I'm just saying.
All right. So with that said, just a reminder to the judges, tally up your votes and all that stuff, for round 1. So when we collaborate later, if you want to write, a little log sentence or however you should reminder, whatever you want to go about it. But with that said, we are moving on to question number 2. And question number 2 is going to be, what is the best performance in a horror comedy? All right, we are going to be starting with Papa and then Jay, and this is going to be back to the regular format. So it's going to be 1 minute, 5 minutes, 1 minute. So 1 minute, Papa.
All right, so the best performance in a horror comedy. You don't have to go that far back in the past. It's 2019, Ready or Not. I chose Samara Weaving, where she plays Grace Ladomas. Well, yeah, because she technically gets married before the movie starts. So yeah, that's her last name. Plain and simple, she's getting married to a very wealthy family. Before she's welcomed into the family, though, they want to play a game, and it's hide and seek. You're thinking to yourself, how hard can that be? Well, it's a very deadly game. That's how hard that can be. She's by herself for a good portion of the movie, and you don't feel like you're watching one person by herself. She's building the story on her own. Phenomenal performance. The little bit of interaction she has with everybody else is great. She builds people's performances around her, and she drives a story pretty much by herself. You're rooting for her. You feel the tension. It's everything a great performance should do in a horror movie. She makes good laughs because it's a comedy also. I have 3 seconds left. I have to make up some. Well, I'm not making up stuff.
He makes good laughs because it's a comedy. Also, please strike that from the record because that line is trash. All right,
No,
one.
that was in my time frame. That's in the record.
1 minute, Jay. Would you begin speaking?
No. Keep that on the record. That being said, Tyler Labine playing off of Alan Tudyk as Dale in Tucker and Dale versus Evil is by far one of the best comedy performances that we have seen in the last decade and a half. And I say that because it came out in 2010. And it is of its time, where you have somebody who seems like they're a little mentally deficient playing up that. But he is incredibly endearing and has this ability to make you laugh, not even just like cringing when he says certain sentences, but like when he's sitting there and they're playing Trivial Pursuit and he makes Katrina Bowden's character laugh, like the way that Dale and him, or the way that Tucker and him react, this is by far one of the best performances that I've seen in a horror movie. Yeah.
And time. All right. 5 minutes when the first person begins speaking.
Oh, you want me to go? All right.
Yeah, you let me go first last time. I'll let you go first.
I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
So what it really comes down to is the fact is, do we want to just continue to put pretty white people, or do we want all white people to map? No, I'm kidding. I'm fucking kidding. Don't fucking take it.
To the time frame. To the record.
It is. White lives matter. No, Tyler Labine does something that I haven't seen done very well in an American comedy, that I see done really well in British comedy, where your secondary character or your tertiary character plays really well off of not only your main character, but everybody else that he's allowed to play off. Yes, Alan Tudyk is the go-to choice, but I think Tyler Labine is the hidden gem here when it comes to this movie and this performance in said movie.
I mean, yeah, I'll agree with you. He is a hidden gem, but is it the greatest performance of all time? No. I mean, you look at who does the better redneck. Alan Tudyk does. Who has the better confused performance as far as like what's going on and why these people are killing themselves? Alan Tudyk. Who has more character development and more emotions during the film? It is Alan Tudyk. It is definitely Alan Tudyk. There's a reason why he is the go-to.
100%. It is Tyler Labine, 100%.
No, again, he is a nice little gem to there. But as far as character, yes, Tyler Labine has a better character because his is the primary character. But as far as a performance, as far as the performance goes, who leads a better performance?
Tucker and Dale versus Evil. He's not the primary character. He is the secondary character in the film. So, thanks, though.
Okay. I mean, you can call him whatever character you want to. I'm just going to say he's not the greatest performance. You take him out and take him out and put anybody else in that performance, I think you still have a really good movie. I'll say it's a fantastic horror comedy. Some would say the greatest horror comedy of all time. That is canonically correct because I argued that and won in a TNG Entertainment match. But all that being said, doesn't mean he has the greatest performance. You never see him lead by himself. He always has people he has to lean on to have a good performance.
No, that's just it. You do see him take the lead, especially when it comes to Katrina Bowden's character within the film, where he is trying to protect her and make sure that she is safe, even after the skinny dipping scene where she does hit her head on the rock. And then you see his protective nature take over. And then you have a whole bunch of these really weird ass fucking college kids who are like, oh, there are some murderous hillbillies out here. And then that's when you get the twist at the end of the fucking movie. And then even then, he knows and he understands that the tea that he spews into I want to say Brad's face. Sorry, I talk a lot with my hands. Fuck you.
Yeah, you're doing some stuff.
It's one of those things that causes an allergic allergic reaction. But there's more in the character of Tyler Labine than there is anything that's gone on or has been spoken about Samara Weaving. So, like, let's be real here. You're saying that this isn't the case for him, and you're making my case for me by not even speaking about yours, but you're acting and you're talking about everything it is that my character does within the movie, whether or not it is his interactions with Katrina Bowden or whether or not it's with Alan Tudyk. He is still there and he is forefront, and it's what makes him the best character in those movies.
I mean, this is a debate, and to be a good debater, not only do you have to argue your point, you have to make counterclaims against the other person's. You haven't said anything against my pick, so why would I try to take down my case as far as my performance being better if you're not going to take any shots at it? So plain and simple.
Your movie is hide and seek with somebody dies. Like, okay, that's not an intriguing thing. That's something that's been done multiple times. At least Tucker and Dale versus Evil is quite literally a movie where the entire paradigm of what it is gets shifted upon its head.
Yes, and again, like I've said, yours is the better horror, is one of the greatest horror comedies, and that is all because it is great and clever writing, nothing to do with the performances. Mine, yes, it's a generic trope, but you know what? Samara Weaving owns it and makes it hers. And when you think of hide and seek, you think of her in the wedding dress with the shotgun.
And time. All right.
Sorry,
all right.
Just for JPO's message.
Yeah, in the private chat. All right, Papa, we're starting with you. 1 minute when you begin.
Yes, like we've said before, Samara Weaving has the greatest performance. She is able to build off of these little interactions. She's able to pretty much be by herself for most of the movie. You get this character development where she's, this is her wedding day. She's all happy-go-lucky. And then, okay, this is kind of weird. We're playing a game. Oh, we're playing hide and seek. Oh, that'll be fun. And then she starts seeing people die. And you see this oh crap moment of this total fear. And then you see her turning into this brave heroine throughout the film. Character development. What do you get with Tucker? Not that. Confused hillbilly. Okay, he's protective, but he's still a confused, dumb hillbilly. I'm going to concede the rest of my time so you don't hear child screaming.
Respect it. / sorry.
He got shampoo in his eyes while showering.
Poor guy. All right, Jay, 1 minute when you begin.
Sorry, buddy.
That's something Papa would never get, shampoo in his eyes.
No, it happens every night too. It's horrible.
Papa literally just described every game of tag or every game of hide and seek that anybody has ever played from the ages of 3 to 5. What we're looking for when it comes to what makes a great character in a horror movie or the best character in a horror movie is their ability to adapt and overcome. Dale has severe social anxiety, and he ends up overcoming it. He is able to sit there and have a conversation with her, build his own social shield, and still come out on top, while not necessarily being the reason why every joke is made, but is still they're able to make the jokes and still able to help his best friend and save the girl that he is interested in. It's the reason why he is the best horror movie character.
And time. All right. With that said, going on into question 3. Good pace and good flow. So far, I'm liking the vibes. Judges in the back row might be bored, but hey, if it's less than an hour, boring's not that bad, as long as the debate is fun. Question
don't care about the judges.
I care because they're doing me a favor by showing up. All right. Question number 3. We are going into some sci-fi. What is the most underrated sci-fi film that doesn't involve space or aliens? All right. So another 1-5-1 format. So Jay, 1 minute when you begin.
I really feel like, what are you looking for when you're asking for a science fiction film? You are looking for science and you are looking for fiction. What is better than a United States military base unleashing zombies on an unsuspecting populace, and that populace happens to have the absolute banger of Lupita Nyong'o, and for some reason Josh Gad is there, but he is the comedic foil. If we're looking for what is the best science fiction, what is the most underrated science fiction film that doesn't involve space or aliens, I'm sorry, time travel always involves space. It doesn't matter where you're at. If you are removing space, you are also involving time, or you are vice versa, time and space. That being said, Little Monsters, by far a very heartwarming little feature, but it in its entirety is what a science fiction movie is when you're looking for a feel-good film and a science fiction movie.
And time. All right, 1 minute when one-ish minute when Papa begins.
Papa thought I was talking about the Howie Mandel movie.
That was the first thing to pop up when I Googled it. I'm like, no, I got to fix this. It's 2019 or whatever year it was. But I got it. It's okay. No, see, the correct answer, Jay kind of talked about it a little bit with time travel, talking about it being space. See, Jay, this is this is the term we like to refer to as one word, multiple meanings. See, I can read in between the lines. Henry was talking about outer space. Time travel talks about space as a dimension, different stuff. That's why I was accepted. The correct answer is a movie about time travel, has history, has sci-fi, has romance, has a little bit of everything. That is 2003's Timeline. If you know anything about me in my history of writing trivia matches, if I'm going to write anything about Richard Donner movies, it's going to have Timeline in there at all. Richard Donner directed this movie. Again, has a lot of stuff. Very sad. It doesn't have a lot of good reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, and I think that's a shame because it's actually a lot enjoyable than it's.
And time. Look at that. That's how you stop when we say time. All right, 5 minute freeform when the first person begins specking.
Go ahead, Con. I only said it so JPO would stop bitching behind the scenes.
JPO can be happy now because you said a bad word. Thank you for that. Again, the most underrated sci-fi film. I think you misunderstood the question. See, critics didn't like this movie when it came out because it was ahead of its time. It had an $80 million budget, only brought home $43.9 million. So it was a failure at launch because people didn't know what they were expecting. They were thinking generic time travel movie. Well, yes, this movie deals with time travel. You have people in present day going back in time to the British and French War, so that the main character can find his father. You have a great story about a man trying to save his dad. You have a love story between Merrick, who there's a little fun Easter egg at the very beginning. He's looking at a statue. Turns out it's him because he falls in love with the woman, decides to stay in the past. Great love story in a sci-fi film. I think if you watch this movie again today, you enjoy it a lot more than people thought in 2003 because they were expecting generic time travel movie that this movie is not.
If we're gonna just bring in fucking random numbers, Little Monsters, $12.5 million to make, brought in a little under $4.5 million, almost at $4,500.
You did,
but like that's the thing is I didn't hear about this movie because it was promoted. I heard about this movie through word of mouth, and when you hear people talk about movies that you want to watch, especially if we're talking about underrated movies, word of mouth is the exact way for that to go. And yeah, you can say what you want to say about Timeline. You can say that, oh, hey, look, he said space, so that means outer space. That's not what it was said. It's not what was clarified. You just went ahead and said that. But they also move through space, not only time. So, like, let's calm down there. That being said, honestly, it is a funny movie. Yes, it is a heartwarming movie, and it's really weird to find a science fiction film that is funny and heartwarming at the exact same point in time. especially with the way that like Josh Gad plays the character that he plays in the film. I'm so mad that I'm forgetting his name right now, but he's a very Freddy Got Fingered character. He also allows both Lupita Nyong'o and not Dave England, because it's anyways, to bounce off of him, but it is still a straightforward science fiction film because zombies are there, and it's what would you do if you took a kindergarten class to a petting zoo and you got attacked by zombies versus, hey, my dad said that he was super important, and it turns out my dad is super important because he traveled through time and they ended up being those things. Is that science fiction? Yeah, because time travel. Let's be real here. I'm not going to knock you for that. But it's ultimately its own little like recursive prophecy. Like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy when it comes to it. Whereas you don't have that in my film, and I feel like that makes it a better science fiction film, even though that's
Okay. Well, the question's not what's the better sci-fi film. The question is what's more underrated. Here's the fun fact about yours. It wasn't a big critical success because it only came out on Hulu. You talk about you didn't see any promotion for it. You didn't watch anything on Hulu at that time because they were promoting the crap out of that. I'll give you this. It's fun. You have these little kids who turn into zombies. That's something we haven't really seen.
The little kids don't turn into zombies. This man's never watched this movie.
It's a cute story. I'll give you that. But it doesn't really do anything new for zombies.
Maybe Paul Walker should have went into the past before he got into that red Ferrari.
Okay, that was uncalled for. Again, mine, it could have just been a generic time travel movie. And I think that's what people were expecting it to be, and that's why it didn't succeed. It was a
generic time travel movie, whereas mine wasn't a generic zombie movie. That's the thing. Like, we're talking about underrated here. Yours was a generic time travel movie. Mine wasn't a generic zombie movie because the genre that I normally choose deals primarily with adults, whereas this one deals with children and how adults would deal with children during that, versus yours being like, hey, I like this person because they look like me in stone.
And time. Closers, 1 minute when Jay begins.
Science fiction movies don't always necessarily have to be serious films. I will 100% say that, with the Cornetto trilogy being one of my favorite trilogies of all time, them dealing with science fiction. However, Little Monsters has to deal with the effects of sending an army after a petting zoo full of children who may or may not be zombies, and not knowing that Lupita Nyong'o trying to keep control of them, Josh Gad sitting here and acting like an absolute whack job.
Okay.
It's something like, yeah, it came out on Hulu. And does one of the largest streaming services mean that it's necessarily not promoted? No, but is it underrated, especially the way that people don't talk about it? No. But it is underrated because nobody talked about it while it was there.
And time. 1 minute closing when Papa begins.
Jay, again, I think you are misunderstanding the question. Underrated. This movie, mine was not widely praised when it came out. People didn't like it because they were wanting generic time travel movie, and that's not what this movie is. You talk about this guy falling in love with a statue that looks like him. That's not what happens. He sees this statue, doesn't see any resemblance because you can't really see a lot of resemblance in old statues, falls in love with a woman in the past, loses his ear in battle, and then realizes, I'm the statue. I have to stay here. You have that great love story between Merrick and Lady Claire, where a guy is willing to lose everything and not go back home and stay with this woman. You do have really good performances by Billy Connolly, Paul Walker, that wasn't talked about. What would you do if your dad got lost in time? I'd try to save him. Yours is fun, but if I'm going to watch a zombie movie, I'm going to watch Zombieland. As far as zombie comedies go, Yours was talked about when it first came out, but didn't do a lot for the franchise. For the
All right.
Well, my dad's dead, so
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
All right, we're going into our final main round question, and we'll see if it is the final question of the night. With that said, fourth question. This one's a little interesting because it's one of the prompts that's kind of unique to this league, Real Debates. But it is: what positive horror hot take do you have within any horror franchise? A critic Rotten Tomato score that you're defending. So essentially, overly negative. Are you hype it up / give it some love, however, whatever approach you want, just for the judges who aren't familiar with what they're going to say. And I don't know exactly how their approach. So I just want to go that. So with that said, 1 minute, Papa.
One of the greatest horror franchises of all time is the Final Destination franchise. There, I said it. And I'll say too, most of these movies are bangers. If you look at the Rotten Tomatoes score, Final Destination, the first one, is a 36% on Rotten Tomatoes. That is an outrage. That movie is genius. Final Destination 2, 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's a great movie. Final Destination 3 is a 43%. Another great movie. The Final Destination, 28%. Okay, that movie sucks. But every franchise can have its bad movie. And then Final Destination 5, 63%. I think all of those movies, except for the Final Destination, should be rated a lot higher. This is a franchise that brought something new. People aren't running from a character, like a slashing character. They're running away from a concept itself called death. Every single movie brings in its own unique spin on people running away from death, and it should be talked about a lot more.
All right. Jay, are you good? I know you were talking a second ago. Okay. 1 minute when you
the Resident Evil franchise has done more in the last 2 decades than most horror movie franchises have done for the genre that they're in. And I'm not talking just horror, I'm talking about zombie horror here. And you say what you will. Oh, they're video game movies. Oh, it's just a Paul W.S. Anderson. He directed 5 of them. And, he's a little bit better than Uwe Boll. But what ultimately ends up happening is you see themes and you see things that happen in Resident Evil movies, as much as you don't want to talk about them, happen more in Resident Evil movies or post Resident Evil movies than they've happened ever in the zombie franchise. So the Resident Evil franchise has done more for the genre of zombie movies in the last 20 years than any other genre, than anything else that the genre has provided. That is my time.
And time. All right. 5 minutes when the first person begins.
Jay, I do want to ask you real quick, what has the Resident Evil franchise series done for zombies? Because any rules on zombies comes in all the movies that happened before that.
Psychics, tanks, okay, if we want to continue going.
And is any of this seen in anything zombie related outside of Resident Evil?
Hold on. You asked me what the fucking movies did, and I'm trying to tell you, and then you keep interrupting me. So what it did was it quite literally gave you those little prototypes, or it gave you those I'm forgetting the word right now. Tropes. There it is. That allowed this to continue to grow, because what happens is mediocre directors, good directors, bad directors, great directors take from things that they watch, and it's not that nobody doesn't watch them, it's that they do things for them, and a lot of that didn't come out until after the first Resident Evil movie came out in 2002.
Okay, so you said it's brought all these tropes, the sidekick, the tank, it's done all these other stuff. When is this ever done in anything zombie related afterwards? Because really what the zombie franchise was is it was dying. They took a video game franchise. They're like, hey, let's revive this. We can do both zombies and video games, and we're golden. First one's great. And then all these random... What?
Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead is zombies. It doesn't bring... Where's a tank or a psychic?
Are you kidding me? The big dude with Bloody Mary in the yard when they try. Don't play the game with me. If you're gonna ask for a singular thing, don't sit there and play like I don't have a response to it. But
Because
let's
he's a
not
big
sit here and act like Final Destination. Oh, you're running away from a concept. No, you're not. You're running away from death, and death is a concept in almost every single horror movie ever, my guy. Like, oh, you're running away from the Grim Reaper. Like, it doesn't happen before. What?
Well, in most movies, you are running away from a character. You can see this character in the Final Destination franchise. You don't see death. Death pops up out of nowhere. It has little clues sometimes, but not every time. Sometimes, just randomly, a rock gets hit up by a lawnmower and shoots through a lady's eyes. She didn't see that coming. She didn't have her eye on any of that. That was a joke from the movie that they said, ha ha, that was funny.
Seventh Seal happened. Like, you sit down with death literally and play a game. Let's not act like this isn't a thing. Like, oh, you can say that fate is that immutable concept that you can't understand, but people escape it almost in every film. Does it come back in every other film? Yeah, but does that make it the most does that make it the greatest horror movie of all time? Absolutely not. At least what they do with Resident Evil is they try to introduce new concepts that people can take from and borrow and create another concept from, whereas nobody really does this when it comes to the Final Destination films, I believe is what you call them.
Well, most people don't like to just copy and paste off of a good generic idea, and that's exactly what would happen
Okay.
if you tried to
So
copy and paste.
It Follows doesn't count, but all right, yeah.
And again,
Like,
you're not.
what?
There is a strict character that they are running from. The character changes forms, but you can tell when that character is there.
For her doesn't count. Okay.
What Final Destination does is yes, death is a generic idea and a concept, but death has never been like the actual central character that they are running away from in any franchise.
Exactly the central character that they are running away from, because it is their destination. That's what the Final Destination is.
Other horror
Whereas
franchises.
in the Resident Evil franchise, you do have expansion and you do have growth with everything else. Yeah, you can call them tropes, and I've called them tropes. You've called them tropes. We can call them tropes. They do expand within the franchise and outwards. But guess what? They still have some of the most captivating scenes, some of the most invigorating characters. You can't call Alice an invigorating character. I will give you that. But you do have characters.
The best character in your franchise is from the video game, not the movie.
That's not
best
true.
characters from the video game.
And
fair examples.
time. All right, pop up 1 minute when you begin for your close.
Yes. So a lot of horror franchises have people running away from a physical character that you can see who hacks and slashes. But with Final Destination, they're not running from a person. They're running from a concept that is death. Death follows. Doesn't matter where they are. Death won't even let them kill themselves. They have to go through Death's plan. Every film does something different. With Resident Evil, you have people versus zombies. The rules of zombies came out well before Resident Evil. You said that they brought in tanks, which is something that's used in Shaun of the Dead. Just because the guy's big and fat and won't go down when Shaun hits him with a record disc doesn't make him a tank. It just makes Shaun a crappy zombie killer. At the beginning, he gets better. You say Resident Evil has done more for the zombie franchise. It almost killed the zombie franchise. There's a reason we had to go from this horror aspect to comedy in Shaun of the Dead. And then with Zombieland, comedy, Little Monsters, comedy.
Time. All right, final 1 minute for Jay when you begin speaking.
It's funny how every single comedy or zombie movie that my opponent has mentioned came out after Resident Evil came out. And it's almost like they took little bits and pieces out of every single one of the Resident Evil movies before my movies came out and then added them into their own, and then they became super popular. My opinion isn't that those movies are good. It's that they have done more for the zombie genre in the horror genre or the zombie subgenre than in the horror genre than anything else. He spent a lot of time attacking me for my movies not being great. Yeah, they're not great, but what they produced outside of the movies themselves was great. Zombieland, Shaun of the Dead. He asked me for examples. I gave him examples, and now he's mad that I gave him examples.
And time. All right, that is our prepped debating. I'm going to bring in the judges now. 50 minutes in, and there's a chance that this is over. If not, we go to speed round. So honestly, I think this is a great idea. And let you guys chat it up and talk for 27 minutes per question. All right, bringing in our judges. Thank you guys for being behind the scenes. Obviously, I know it's a little awkward, but you know, if you guys enjoyed the debate, it's not as awkward. It's just like watching it at home. I'll start first just to kind of set the tone of what I'm looking for. So essentially just going in, I have my notebook now. I actually wrote in paper. So in round one, spoiler alert, best round. I was like, oh shit, well, this is going to be a great debate. It went downhill from there. But anyway, round one was awesome. This was a fantastic debate. I really think you guys did a great job. Jay, you did a good job of showcasing the love of your team and just kind of what you would like to see. But unfortunately, I just don't really think that automatically translates to film, and it just doesn't sound as interesting. And I was really intrigued on how you were going to approach this because you seem very confident when you posted it in the chat. But yeah, Papa just has one of those where that's what you make a film of. There's sometimes when you have the quote unquote right answer and you fuck it up, but Papa didn't. He did a really good job. So point one went to Papa for me. Round two. This one was very weird too because I honestly think both of you guys kind of debated what was the best character and not what was the best performance. So I was trying to like kind of gauge how I wanted to judge this one. And honestly, I just really only got points from the opening round, and Papa just won the opening for me. Jay, you did a really good job of explaining why Dale is a great character. And even in your actual debate, you were saying the lines, he's the better character. And I just think you kind of just flubbed up and you just didn't really hammer the performance. I do think that there's an argument there for performance, but unfortunately just didn't relay in the debate. Round three, Papa was, over, worrying about the semantics of what underrated is. And I feel like he just didn't really do a good job of hiding the fact that he'd never seen Little Monsters. And then the fact that Jay, you did a fantastic job of just overcoming and not going into that trap of that underrated bullshit. You did a really good job. So point three did go to Jay for me. And then this last one, similar to round two, I really had nothing. You guys really gave me nothing to go with. It's one of those ones similar to the Jay and the JPO and Tato debate of the satire of like, how are you going to approach this? Because it's a newer question type. And yeah, neither of you really, did a great job. Papa fell in the hole of just going down the Resident Evil bullshit that Jay was doing with, but unfortunately Jay did not. He let up. He tossed up the pitch. He's like, all right, I'm going to tell you all these things that Resident Evil did for the zombie franchise, and then didn't do any of that. And at least Papa was able to convince me that Final Destination is a great franchise. So I did go 0.4 for Papa. So overall, I went 3-1 Papa. JPO. You are muted, my guy.
Hey, off to a good start, aren't we? I actually liked for round two, but the round one. Round one, I thought I was waiting for you guys to sell me on a movie. It took a while. I felt like I was throwing a lot of.
Yeah, you don't know sports, so yeah, you're like, I don't know what the fuck you got.
Exactly. So I'm like, I was waiting for somebody to sell me more on this.
We spent the whole time selling a movie.
No, you were selling me names and like, my guy did this touchdown, and I was like, cool. What's your movie though? But finally, I thought Papa actually sold me a little bit more on what his movie and his moments would be. Towards the end, he was kind of describing like shit. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I kind of want to see that more so in a movie. So Papa got round one for me here. But Jay's gonna take it back though in round two. I kind of just thought again, you can debate the question, I guess, a little bit, but I thought he gave me just a little bit more on his exact character and moments. Well, Papa was a little bit more about the movie itself that I felt like Jay sold me more on the actual person and the character performance. Round three, I'm also giving it to Jay. It was a close one, but that Papa got a little bogged down on the one thing, and Jay just kind of kept hitting it and drilling it a little bit more. So I give that to Jay as well. But then I'm giving the last point to Papa, so I got it at 2-2. I thought he just had better knockdowns, a little bit more defense on where he was coming from. It's a weird one to kind of judge, but yeah, Papa, JJ Papa.
All right, Eric, and what is your judgments?
Yeah, I agree with
Good
Henry
game,
in
Papa.
this one. The first one, it was the very best debate we had tonight. I'm not a football fan, so I wasn't like invested in the names of the people you claimed. I know who Marshawn Lynch is. I know who Eli Manning is, and all that. And I think he's
Good
great.
actor now.
Do you though?
Yeah, I know who Marshawn. He's in Bottoms. He's great.
He's in
I
Bottoms.
think-
Yeah,
yeah.
that Murderville show with Will Arnett.
Yeah, he's also pretty good in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but that doesn't matter. At the end, I also went with Papa because he sold me more on the character dynamics that are going to be present in his movie, like especially the Eli Manning stuff. That he has pressure, he's a brother of Peyton Manning, all of that. I think both of them had great moments for the respective football teams, like the
Fuck,
what do you
this
call
is
it, the
brother.
Ice Quake. Shut the fuck up. I'm talking.
It's their time. You had plenty of time.
Yeah, you already talked. But both of them were good. But now I kind of want to give less props to Jay for not selling me so much on Seahawks. Like I think he believes the most. I also thought he was the most invested in his team. But I think Papa sold me on the better movie at the very least. Although I actually like Jay defending the fact that some sports team in some movies actually lose in their movies. So I thought that was good. But I went with Papa on that one. But yeah, it's much like JPO in the second one. I also went with Jay because he sold me the better performance. Like I probably would have taken either of them because I was super invested in that one because I like both of them, like their performances respectively. But I think Jay sold me more on the character progression he goes through, the very different dynamics, and I would have probably went more around how the movie and the character itself kind of goes against the prejudice that type of movie comes up with hillbillies and how he overcomes that. So I think Jay had the better point in that one, so I gave that to Jay. Nobody gave me anything on round 3. It was very hard to pick. I haven't seen either movie, so at the very least, that's fair to me. At the end, I went with Papa mostly because I don't know why. Actually, I don't have any good reason to pick either Timeline or Little Monsters. I don't remember why I picked Papa. I had 1 point and 1 point in either of them, so that doesn't matter. It was a coin toss. And then fourth one, I was also waiting for Jay to come up with the actual proof that Resident Evil has been like important in the other movies. Like I know zombie movies came after, but I think Papa did a better job at pointing that. But actually those are comedies that they are not that related to Resident Evil. I can see a good point of Resident Evil has influenced some of the zombie movies came after. I just waited for the actual movies that were. And then I agree with Final Destination take. So that was kind of not how you say. I had a bias in that one in that regard, but also I think he sold me more on the actual thing inside the movie that makes it a better or underrated or critic score, whatever. The question was very confusing, so it doesn't matter. But I also went 3-1 Papa. Yeah.
All right. So with that said, and your winner, Papa, 8-4 votes. So 8-4 votes. So with that said, all right, let's go ahead and talk to Papa first. Papa, how you feeling, buddy?
I'm feeling good. I was very nervous coming into this because I didn't prepare at all for any of it.
No shit.
Fun fact: Papa had a really weird weekend. I haven't seen Timeline in forever. Didn't watch Little Monsters ever. Wanted to, just never got around to it. Never watched Ready or Not. Haven't seen Tucker and Dale in forever. Completely forgot about some of the questions. But I do have to say, I hate myself for talking good about Eli Manning because that man is a joke. That man got lucky, and that man deserves to have every record, everything good he's done just stripped away because fly, Eagles, fly, baby.
That's okay. That's fair.
But also fuck Tom Brady.
Where's little Sean at? Where's your cowboy sticker?
I have no idea where Little Sean is. I moved almost a year ago, and I'm still looking for everything. But Little Sean's gonna go right there on that printer once I find him.
Hell
Probably
yeah.
like on the page that's coming out of the printer. Because then it's funny because he's like coming out of Shaq. I wonder what John Wasserkrug would think of that.
I'm sure he'd be happy to come out of Shaq. So I'm probably going to, obviously nothing set in stone, but I'm probably going to pair you up with the winner of Eric, who just judged, and Jacob Cameron. Do you have a preference on either of those two of who you'd want to play? Do you want to get payback on Eric, or would you not want to face him because you don't want to beat him since he voted for you? Or you want him to judge again if he...
I mean, I don't care who you put me up against. I did trivia and debates seriously for a long time, and I'm done doing stuff seriously. There's a reason singles and teams of TMG trivia is dead, because I took that way too seriously. And there's a reason it's now just me playing board games and sucking at it. Debates, fun. I don't care who you put me up against. I'll lose 0 to 12. I'll have the time of my life. I don't care. It's going to be a ton of fun, though.
I like that. All right. See you in the next time. And I'm glad that, you at least had fun, because that's all, at the end of the day, it's all we want. All right. Jay, unfortunately, things didn't go your way, but up until the judgings, I do think you had a lot of fun. So that's why we save it to the end. Overall, how you feeling, buddy? And are we going to, get past today and live a good life?
No, and no, and no. This is the reason why you don't allow all 4 explanations for your rounds to come in at the final end, because somebody says, I don't remember why I gave the point to this person, but I gave the point to this person. It's fucking ridiculous at that one, bro. I'm actually heated about that.
That was just a point of like, hey, I knew what he was saying.
Don't give a fuck, dude. You literally can't say, oh, I gave this person this point, but I don't remember the reason why I gave this person this point.
I'll say it, and then we'll move on from that. He said he hadn't seen both movies, so he didn't remember why.
It doesn't
wasn't
matter.
able to
He said, I don't remember why I gave this person this point.
Anyway, Jay, the questions, you overall had a good time. Any ones that you think that in a different mind state and different time of day that
Nope.
you would have been better prepared for, or
Nope.
All right. Is there any ones that you would want to redo in the future?
Absolutely the fuck not. I think I at least 1, 2, and 4 I had reasonable debates about, but because somebody doesn't remember a fucking point shouldn't be the reason why that I went with what Henry went with.
In the defense, hypothetically speaking, even if he would have switched it still would have been Papa's favor. So I won't hammer.
It doesn't matter. This is also why you don't do it at the end of the debate. I love you, buddy.
That was just bad wording. Anyway, with that said, so I'm not exactly sure who I'm going to face you with next. I'm thinking that Madi is definitely still out there. Alec would be a lot of fun. There's definitely some people out there to go with. So shout out you. All right. So with that said, you can't win them all. It's just like everything in that nothing's ever going to be perfect. That's why you got to have thick skin. My name's Henry Confidential. I genuinely think that this was a blast. This was a great time. We got through a full debate with a little over explanations to kind of get the concepts aligned, and we're still at an hour. Now it's always the goal. My name's Henry Confidential. You guys are you. Shout out JPO. We'll love you more than you'll ever know.